My first thought was, I don't know what reproductive issues I have because I have health insurance, which I think is a really kind of deep thought, because a lot of people don't look at healthcare reform or reproductive justice issues as an issue for them, because they have healthcare, it's not something that we really need to explore. When I first found out I was pregnant, the first initial testings and things like that, the doctor assessed me, and I said I had a little morning sickness, I had whatever going on with me, and immediately he prescribed medication to me without conversation about maybe other things I can do to help ease the morning sickness. The first medication he prescribed to me was an anti-nausea medicine that they actually give to chemotherapy patients. And I did not know that until I went to the pharmacy and was charged almost $100 for the medication. I just wasn't educated around asking the right questions. And I just assumed because the doctor is the doctor, he would give me something that would be appropriate.
Based insurance. I've had employer-based insurance for my jobs, thankfully, and I go looking for jobs for that specifically. I am petrified of having to look for insurance outside of employer-based insurance. One is mainly because I don't know what my options are. I don't know what coverage is outside of Kaiser. I'm a Kaiser baby from beginning to currently, and this health insurance is a foreign entity for me, and I don't know how to access the information. You have to do some serious searching, and I don't know if everyone has the tools to do that. And so a lot of people either don't get insurance, mainly because they don't know what their options are, or they are forced into an option that's not best suited for them.
When I was growing up, my mother was a hairdresser, and she was self-employed, and consequently she didn't have access to health care. So she would have to flip-flop between doing hair in a shop and making better money to going to a minimum wage, more 8-to-5 structured type position for element of coverage, even just to have me covered. However, at the same time, my mother was a diabetic, so it would go years in between at times before she'd be able to see a doctor and have access to test strips and medications. And a lot of times we go down to Mexico to go get medication from whatever the last doctor had prescribed to her. She just filled that prescription that she had had previously before that. So ideally, I'd like to see a universal health coverage that would cover all people.
Even people with insurance have problems getting the health care that they need. For example, I went to the doctor to get a birth control method that I thought would work for me in the stage of life that I'm in. And I essentially was talked out of it because it happened to be expensive. And to the point where I didn't even leave with the method that I wanted. And I was left with the morning after pill, which is not a birth control method. That is something that happens if your birth control method fails. That's when you use that. And I just was insulted because it seems as though he didn't realize that I understood the difference between the two. And also that it really necessitated me having to come back for another visit, which meant I had to take off work another day, which meant that I had to then advocate for myself to get the care that I really needed. And I mean, it was just a lot of extra energy, and it really did not it's not what I pay high premiums for and high co-pays. And
5 years old, and I grew up with not not having a lot of information. My parents didn't talk to us a lot about our bodies, our sexuality, or just becoming a woman. And there wasn't a lot of information out there when I was growing up. And so here I am, 45 years old, and I know very little about my reproductive functions. And there's not a lot of information out there. If it weren't for Planned Parenthood, I probably wouldn't have, I would have even less than I have now. So these sort of programs are important. It's important for information to be out there, and for us people like me and people of color, or even if you're growing up in a household in a situation where you don't have a lot of information, or where it's taboo to talk about this, talk about sexuality, that there is information out there for everyone to access, especially again for individuals who would grow up in a similar situation as mine. It's important for us to understand our bodies, to understand how we function, and understand how we can keep ourselves healthy. And so these organizations are important, and health reform is equally important, because not only without the information itself is not enough, we also need access.